Hey, this is Oliver Luck, and you're listening to the XFL Extra Point Podcast.
Since the day you saved my soul, you've been proving
This is the XFL.
Hey guys, what's going on? XFL Extra Point number 20. I'm Justin. I'm here with Thomas. Thomas, say something so people know you exist.
Yeah.
Just a long and then a yeah.
Yep.
Jesus. We're on episode 20 at this point, Thomas.
Sorry, I had something ready to go an hour ago, but somebody wasn't ready, and I had to wait an hour, so my brain just died. Yes. Yes.
Sorry, I have to put together show notes for the show, Thomas.
No, the show notes were done.
All right, anyway, episode 20. Glad we got here.
Yes. Yes.
Doing the same stuff as usual, except this is our picks and previews episode for week 4, not a recap episode.
No,
that comes on Friday.
This will not be 2.5 hours.
This is going to be a short one. We're doing listener questions. We're doing news and notes, which we don't have a lot of this week. Because some of the news and stuff kind of mixes into our preview, and that's why it's kind of hard sometimes. Like, we could talk about transactions and stuff.
Yeah.
But we kind of talk about them when we do the preview, so it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we're going to do our picks and preview for week 4. So anyway, if you guys want to support the show, as always, you can head over to Twitter, follow us there, growing community over there at XFL Extra Point. That's the easiest way to find us, and contact us if you have listener questions. That's how you do it. Just go on there. I usually post a little thing before the show that says, "Hey, got listener questions. Drop them below if you got them." And I was like, and then they'll send them. That's generally the process. That is generally the process.
Cutting edge technology on this show here.
We also have a YouTube channel. We haven't posted there, but we will at some point. And we'll post more stuff. It's an occasional post. It's mainly just for people who don't want to use, or maybe they just want to listen on their computer, don't want to use whatever app or whatever. But we post the podcast there every week. Other thing I want to ask y'all to do before we get into the show is, if you guys really want to support the show, the best way to do it is to go into whatever, if it's on YouTube, if it's on Apple Podcasts, whatever, rate, review, comment on the show, like, subscribe, whatever, just interact with the show in some way. That helps us a ton, helps us keep doing this, helps us attract advertisers, that keeps the show going so we can upgrade the show. So anyway, but thanks to everyone who's done that kind of stuff. It's really helped. You've seen we've kind of grown since then, and we've improved. I listened to our first episode the other day. I was like, Jesus Christ, this was so bad.
We're fucking terrible. My audio quality is awful. I can't
I have
talk.
no energy.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, guys, let's get on to our news and notes. But anyway, let's move on to our listener questions.
Yes.
All right. 2 that are kind of similar. We've got 2 today. They're both kind of asking the same thing. Not asking the same thing, but they're on the same topic, so I'll read both of them. The first one is from Tyler at TNewMZ. He says, "How long will the potential Flowers move be the most egregious move in the league?" Second question that also relates to Quinton Flowers. It's from XFL Jim at XFL Jim on Twitter. He says, "Think that Quinton Flowers gets traded?" Yeah. So, for the first question, how long will the potential Flowers move be the most egregious move in the league? So far, we've seen stupidity come from Tampa Bay and just all sorts.
Yes.
Everyone is up in arms on how they handled Quinton Flowers, and it's kind of led to the worst at this point, right?
Yep.
So this question, I'm guessing, when he's saying the most egregious move, is like, this is bad, because when he says potential Flowers, I assume he means the trade.
Yeah. That
if he gets traded, because I think the speculation, though it hasn't been confirmed, the speculation at this point with Quinton Flowers is that he's leaving because he doesn't want to be on the team anymore. Yeah. It's essentially like holding out, like, I'm not. It's like almost like Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, in a way.
When he did that, he was like, "Oh, I'm injured," or "I'm not," or whatever. He's just not playing because he doesn't want to be there anymore. Yeah. Right? So, how long will this be the most egregious move in the league?
Well, let's answer
a weird question.
let's answer this question first. Do we think Quinton Flowers gets traded?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I don't think he will.
Why don't you think he'll get traded?
So, first of all, what team do you think is going to trade for him?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's not asking a high price.
Well, still.
For a guy who won't participate on your team.
That's what I mean, though. Like, what team do you think is going to trade for him?
Okay, so the first thing that popped in my head was the Dragons, right? Mm-hmm. But they already have B.J. Daniels, who's already kind of a similar quarterback.
Precisely.
So I don't know if that would work. Perhaps a team like... I mean, to trade for him in any kind of major quarterback role, I don't know about that. Right? It would have to be another gadget player, but that's obviously not what he wants to do.
Precisely.
But but here's the thing. Maybe he'd be happy going to a team that's winning.
Maybe.
Because at least he's getting paid more then. Like, he's on a team that's losing and he's not playing.
Okay, but what team would trade for him?
Well, anyone who wants a gadget player.
Okay. I mean, all I'm saying is I think Quinn Flowers is good, but I don't think from like a
I feel like you hate Quinn Flowers.
No, I don't hate. I'm just realistic. I feel like. I feel like from like a team makeup standpoint, like the team that would trade for him is like if he was just in a vacuum would be the Vipers because they need a quarterback. So
there's other teams that need quarterback too,
such as
the Guardians,
but I don't think they're gonna fucking like Quinn Flowers.
Well, it really depends. There's lots of people calling right now for Magnus's job, the play caller in New York. If that situation goes sour, you lose enough games, things are going to change.
Yes, but at the same time, I just don't think. Oh, excuse me. I just don't think.
Get that yawn in there?
Yeah,
am I boring you, Thomas?
Yeah, no. Nothing. I don't doubt his ability. I doubt teams' interest in him for their team comp is all.
Well, there's plenty of teams that could use a guy who could line up at running back.
It's literally like, give us whatever, we don't care. Like if it's a type of situation where
it has to be that situation because what are they going to get out of him?
Maybe it's nothing, and then it's nothing, and then he can't play for anybody else.
Well, for a year probably.
For a year, but I mean, whatever. This Viper staff may not be there in a year, so.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like there's a good chance he gets traded. Mm-hmm. They did say something in that, like, the door is wide open for him to come back. I don't see him coming back. You have to imagine, like, Oliver Luck is reaching out to him.
Yeah, like, hey, dog. Like, look,
hey,
dog.
What's wrong, bro?
Hey, dog. Look, technically, I own all these teams, so I'm the owner. What's up, dog? Talk to me, bro. So, I don't know.
Like, where do you want to go? I'll make it happen.
I mean, I suppose that's possible. I just feel like if we're looking at everything in a vacuum, I feel like the only really QB needy teams don't really have room for Quinn Flowers. Now, whatever, maybe I'm wrong, but I just looking at every team on paper, unless the asking price is rock bottom, I don't see him going anywhere.
Yeah, but I'm curious if a team would not be interested in him just as a weapon. You know?
I could see that, especially on a team like, say, the Wildcats, where they do have Trey McBride and Nelson Spruce, but they could really use like another type of dude. But also, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of depends.
So. Yeah, he's listed as a quarterback running back hybrid.
Yeah, and it might be something that he wants to play quarterback, so he's not going to, which I don't know because he hasn't said anything of that nature. But
I would assume that's part of it. So I'm just assuming here, right?
Yes,
this is all speculation.
Speculation.
So the assumption for me would be like, hey, he probably knew he wasn't going to be the starter. I mean, he wasn't a tier 1 guy, right?
Yeah.
So he probably didn't have the expectation going into the season that he's going to be the starter. Mm-hmm. The problem arises when your team's doing awful. You're clearly improving your team when you're on the field.
Yeah.
You're the best option, and there's a chance you could win if you were playing.
Yeah.
But they're deciding, nope, we just want to lose.
He's like,
why do I want to be here for a team that wants to lose?
Yes.
At least from his perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. So, I mean, I could see how going to a winner might fix things, but I just, like I said, I don't, unless the Vipers literally just want almost nothing, I don't see it happening.
Okay, well, that's all our listener questions today. Mm-hmm. Only got two. They're both kind of sort of related.
Now, to answer the first question, basically, if they do trade Flowers and if the return is nothing, then yeah, that sucks.
Yep.
Like, that's bad. Because
the question is how long, so, like, who will make the next stupid move? So we're asked to speculate on what team's going to make the next stupid move.
Guardians make the desperation heave and sign Tim Tebow.
No, that's not really. That'd be a good move. They'd probably be okay with Tim Tebow.
Tim Tebow's the god.
That'd probably be a good move. That'd be a great move. No, it'd be like the most egregious move would be like they trade Luis Perez for Chad Kanoff again.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, to say the least.
So there.
Yes.
How long will that'll be in 5 years?
5 years. That's wow. That is some forward thinking.
All right. When we're done with listener questions, we're going to do the news and notes drop right now.
Bang, ba, bang.
Ba-bang.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
All right. First story. We only got one today.
All right.
This is going to be a shorter show, obviously, at this point. So this was kind of not like a traditional news story. I didn't really see this a bunch of places, but I saw one tweet, and I know that this happened, and I did some more background research. So Oliver Luck went to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Probably, I could speculate that he was there to look at people who were participating in the Combine, and for anyone who doesn't, get drafted, or then he's there. Then they're making the decision. Oh, do we, sign with the practice squad, or do we go to the XFL? And I think that'll be a lot of practice squads players will be considering that at this point, probably.
Yeah.
So he spoke at an NFL agent seminar while he was there. He was discussing the future of the XFL. This is according to a tweet from Nathan Shackelford at NathanShack19 on Twitter. And so he said that his key talking points were the following. So he said he fully expects to continue in year 2. So that's good.
Yep.
We will use invite-only camps in a draft as in year 1. So they're going to do a similar thing they did to build talent in the league as they did last year. So that confirms another draft next year. So that's important. That's another thing to note. And then they'll be doing camps, I guess, as well to find who the talent is for those drafts.
All right.
He noted that there was 200 players who were on NFL rosters last year who are now currently in the XFL. So obviously that's a talking point for those agents being like, your guys can come here. Other people didn't, and they're successful.
Yeah.
And then he says next year, teams will retain the rights to their players. So that's interesting, because we were wondering how the contract worked. Like if they were all just up in the air again after one season, because they're only signed 1-year contracts, right?
Yeah.
But I guess since they signed a contract with the XFL, if they decide to return, the teams that they were on are still the teams that they were on. They're not going back into a draft of any kind.
That'd be cool. That's probably for the best.
Yeah, it would be weird if they did it. It's like a fantasy draft every year.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting.
It would be.
But probably not a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
So then they said Team 9 is partly being used to save money by not flying in players for workouts. So if you know what Team 9 is, it's their like pretty much practice squad for the entire league that any team can grab from if they have a need. And that makes sense. That's why we all thought they were doing it. He says the XFL is a standalone league, not a development league or a competitor to the NFL. This is stuff we knew, though interesting that they're still not trying to pitch themselves as a development league. I think that's one of the better pitches that you can make.
That's kind of what they are. It doesn't matter how much they say they're not. That's what they are.
Yeah. But not for every player.
Yeah, but for most players, I would think.
I would say a guy like Will Hill isn't trying to develop in the XFL.
Well, no, but I would say he's trying to get back to the NFL if he can. No one's going to be like, nah, I'll stay here unless the money gets better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like some guys know they're not going back to the NFL, and then they're just like, I want to continue to play football.
Sure, some people
and
do.
The older guys.
Yeah, the older guys, sure, like Will Clark, Anthony Johnson probably, but like at the same time, like this is a developmental league. It is. It like point blank, it is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right, and then the last thing that was a key takeaway from this was he emphasized the no year removed eligibility as with NFL, and that players can use XFL as a way to bet on themselves. Again, so that's the college players. You don't have to wait a year out of high school to come.
That's the best.
They can come to the XFL, like much like Kenny Robinson did,
yes,
and then go into the combine that way.
Now, what would
and
worry
the
me,
reason I'm assuming he spoke to all these agents is because these are the guys who hook up with talents out of.
Can they?
So you want to talk to the agents who will tell their team those things.
Could you jump straight from high school to the XFL?
Yes.
That'd be interesting, and also a very bad idea to do that. But that's interesting.
But it's like, is it the worst idea? I don't know, because some guys what if your only offers are D3, but you think you're
I would, if it were me, I'd go D3 for a year, then reevaluate, because you gotta grow up. Your body has to grow. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for
you
sure.
gotta think about when most kids get onto a college campus, especially if they're not, a top end prospect, they're not as physically developed. So to go straight from high school to a professional league, and then once you start getting paid, you can't go back. To an NCAA school, at least you can probably go to NAIA, unless I'm just wrong.
You're probably wrong.
Yeah, probably usually wrong. But that scares me that maybe some kid will do that and then just get shat on and be like, "Wow, I fucked up." So
yeah. Well, you got to keep in mind that the XFL is going to have to be like, is this guy good enough for our league? We're not going to just take some random dude.
Yeah, you're right.
Like,
Fair.
hey, Thomas Reynolds, right tackle for the Brentwood Mustangs.
Talking shit, bro. Talking shit. I was.
You want to come play in the XFL?
I was all district scout team, bro. I can play every position as long as they told me exactly what to do.
I'm just saying, these guys would have to be. I think it would be something like. I don't even know, because I don't know enough about recruiting in college football, but there has to be cases of guys who are like super good and physically well built that just didn't have the grades to get into schools.
Rare is all I will say. Very,
but I feel like
rare.
it has to happen in some cases.
Like, let's look up. I'm gonna keep talking. I'm gonna look up Jadeveon Clowney's high school stuff.
Okay, we're gonna shit on Jadeveon Clowney.
I'm not gonna shit on him, but like it's just to illustrate what's going on. So, Jadeveon Clowney, coming out of high school, was 6'6", 247. That is professional size, obviously.
Yes.
So, you might have the people like Jadeveon Clowney who jump straight to the XFL, and that'd be interesting. But also, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't do that personally. That's just me. I wouldn't do that because that just seems like, I don't know why you'd want to, unless you really can't get in because of grades. I would really want to go to college.
Now there's people though.
Yeah.
There's people though who get to college and then quickly realize like, I don't ever want to go to fucking class.
Fair.
And their careers end right there.
And then that's fair.
Because they're not eligible.
That's fair.
So I think it's more likely that first year people who go to college for 1 year realize college isn't for them and then would attempt to get into the XFL because they're like, I don't want to go to class. I just want to start making money on football. Yep. And I'm betting on myself that I'm talented enough to not need college as a showcase. I can use the XFL as a showcase and get paid for it.
That shit would just be hard.
For sure.
It'd just be really, really hard is all. So I hope if somebody... I'd be interested to see... if somebody does do that, how it works out. Because
I mean, what's the biggest difference between that and what Kenny Robinson's doing?
Kenny Robinson did go to school for, because what was he, a sophomore?
2 years?
2 years? That's a big difference, man. You got to think about coming to school as an 18-year-old and leaving as a 20-year-old.
Oh, I was talking more about the 1 year situation.
The 1 year situation?
Like, what's the big difference between 1 year and 2 year?
It depends upon the player. A lot can change in a year, though. So, I mean, while you are right in a sense, you're not. Because you got to think about like it's just different because like players get 4 years of eligibility, so from 1 year to the next they can have a huge jump. Look at this is kind of not exactly a correct example, but like Joe Burrow from last year to this year, like big ass difference. So
right,
just stuff like that.
There's also people who weren't good in college who then go pro and are a lot better at the pro level.
Fair. But also, that's mega rare. So,
I feel like it's not that rare.
Well, what's good in college? Because good in college doesn't.
Well, I mean, like a top prospect.
Okay,
like someone who'll get drafted. Like undrafted guys will.
But then,
fine.
The thing is, like most of those guys come from like small school. You know what I mean? Like they get overlooked because they're at a small school, not because they.
But then, okay, so that's another thing to consider. You're going to a small school. Are you going to get more overlooked playing for a small school, or are you going to get more overlooked playing in the XFL? I think you have a better chance of being seen publicly in the XFL rather than playing at whatever college down the road.
Yes, but I still think the physical jump from high school to XFL is like, fuck.
But I mean, if you're a guy who's already... Yeah, it's really going to depend on the person.
Yeah.
I mean, the age difference...
That one fucking quarterback. I think he actually played in the other XFL too. Like Tommy Maddox. So Tommy Maddox was drafted, I believe, by the Broncos. Hold on. Let me go to his Wikipedia. Right, quick. Yes, he was drafted by the Broncos and literally lasted a year because he was just not fucking ready. Because he left after he was like he was a redshirt sophomore, I believe.
Right.
So just it and of course, like we said, every person's different. But that'd be really hard to do. Is all I'm saying.
How old is Kenny Robinson?
I think he's 21, 20, maybe it might be 20.
Where's his Wikipedia?
Oh God,
trying to find his age.
Wikipedia is not a reliable source.
I like how we've been on this topic for a cool minute.
Yes, well, just because this is actually like. He is. Oh,
I can't find it. I literally cannot find his age.
Hold on. There's a Kenny Robinson fucking baseball player that's ruining my search results.
I know, same. Kenny Robinson, comedian. Okay.
I'm assuming he's 2021. 2021, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. 20
Yes.
or 20. I think he's 20 or 21. I guess that's fair.
Yes.
So so the difference between 18 to 21 is a pretty big difference. But
massive.
I was thinking if he was like 19 or something, that'd be like, oh, well,
yeah,
that's not that big of a difference. But
yeah.
okay,
18,
I think we've talked
huge.
enough about this and got.
Yes, we've got
I like
enough
how we
points
just
across.
off that last point really
Yes.
got into it. But all right, well that's it for news and notes. Isn't that crazy? We only got one.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna jump into our big chunk of the show, the Week 4 preview and picks.
Oh.
So let's get into this right quick.
Smash.
All right. So we're starting off. By the way, all our odds are provided by FanDuel Sportsbook, so that's where we get our odds for those considering. If you want to use our advice to bet, which I wouldn't recommend, but if you do for some reason,
well, I have a more successful record to this date, so use my advice if you're going to use one of our advices.
No, I'm kicking your ass this week.
Probably.
Okay. So the first game we're going to talk about is Wildcats at Guardians. It's going to be on ABC. It's the first game of the weekend, 2 p.m. In this game, the Wildcats are favored by 7. And the over-under is at 40. Okay?
All right.
So let's start off with this one. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I will start because I am brimming with confidence and bravado. So Wildcats at New York. I am taking the under, and I'm saying that the Wildcats come out on top, 24-7. Do you want me to go to my reasons why, or do you want to go your thing?
Yes, I want you to go to your reason why. I'm saving my score for the end.
Okay. So, I'll talk about reasons why and also just points of interest. So reasons why. Guardians defense is ass. Even though the Wildcats are kind of short-staffed, as it were, their defense is bad. It just straight up is. It's kind of disappointing because I actually, looking at their team in preseason, I was always like, oh, their linebackers are so fucking good. And they've just under delivered so far. Garrett Brumfield is still out of practice with a head injury. Mm-hmm. So that is rough. Is he out officially, or is he just nothing?
No, he did not participate. All right, so
okay, so he's probably
we don't
out.
We don't usually get those until tomorrow, whether
Okay.
they're actually confirmed out or not.
Okay.
So all we have to go off is whether they participate in practice.
Yes. So that's bad because their O-line situations or their O-line struggles will continue. We're assuming, or do we know, that Damian Mama will start in place of Ian Silberman again?
I think we know.
Okay, so
I think that's confirmed.
Probably a good thing. You can't really lose your cool as hard as he did as an offensive lineman, even though one of them was not really a problem. But we talked about that last show. I'm assuming we also see Luis Perez because Matt McGloin is out with a thorax injury, or at least did not participate. Mm-hmm. So thorax, by the way, is not the part of the bug that we were referring to. It's basically your sternum. So if this were Madden, it would be called a chest injury. So if I had to guess, he probably either cracked his sternum or one of his ribs was out or something like that.
All right, who do you project as the starter for this game? Now knowing that they're splitting reps in practice, is it going to be Marquise Williams or Luis Perez?
Who do I think? Okay, I think Marquise Williams will start, but I would really like to see Luis And the only reason I say Marquise Williams is because he was already kind of, I know they traded for Luis, but he was already kind of rooted as the second string guy. And maybe they've seen enough of him, and if they have, then we'll see Luis. But I think they kind of are going to stick with.
Well, here's the thing: if they're splitting reps in practice, that means they're taking a look at both of them.
Exactly. But
right. So then you got who's performing better. In my mind, because I just think Luis Perez is the better player, I feel like he wins that competition. Maybe,
but maybe not. You know what I mean?
Because it doesn't seem, if they're splitting reps, it doesn't seem like it would be, like who was already seated as the starter, or you know, it's just like it's not like anyone's trying to. Maybe if they're splitting reps, if they're actually splitting 50-50, you know,
but
that means that they're giving both a shot.
Marquise Williams has had a longer playing career than Luis Perez as well, so he just might be better at tiny things that just come with experience that they might like a little better than Luis Perez. Like I said, I would like to see Luis Perez because I also think he's a better player, but it's kind of impossible to guess. You're really, because it just depends on a line of thinking.
Do you think it matters?
I think it matters for the future of the team, not necessarily the outcome of this game.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you already said your score. What was it again?
24-7 Wildcats.
24-7 Wildcats.
Yes. Some things to note for the Wildcat side. Basically, 3 big offensive contributors are at least not participating in practice or limited. That is Martez Carter. Nelson Spruce is already confirmed out, right? I thought you said
Nelson Spruce is confirmed out.
Confirmed out. And Trey McBride is also questionable or whatever. I guess they don't really have that. And another thing on the injury report that might just be precautionary because it kept him out of a few games earlier in the season. But sorry, I felt a sneeze coming, but I was bamboozled. Is Josh Johnson's leg situation is just limited participation. That might just be precautionary.
I would probably, I'd probably chalk that up to just like give this guy a rest. He's already so good.
It might just be precautionary. So we'll see what happens with that. Jalen Dunlap still in limited, and Brandon Barnes still limited. So hopefully they're not just absolutely gutted. I think even if they are, as long as they have Josh Johnson at the helm, they will still probably be fine. Especially against what we perceive to be the worst team in the league. So,
Okay. So for me, the QB matchup's clear. Obviously, we've already kind of talked about that. Only thing I want to point out is just since Johnson's return, they are the 3rd leading team in terms of passing yards with 222. They're also now the 2nd leading team in terms of points per game at 24.7, and that's compared to the Guardians' 10.7, which is the worst in the league. So that obviously there's a clear difference in these offenses, and we knew that even from week 1. I mean, we didn't know that the Guardians were so bad, but we knew the Wildcats had a chance once Josh Johnson came back because that offense still looked good despite having Charles Kanoff, and they were going up against the Roughnecks. Like, you had to factor all that in.
Yeah.
Right? We were more concerned. I think we were more concerned with the defense coming out of week 1 than we were the offense.
Yes.
But okay, so I'm going to talk about the defense a little bit. Again, Wildcats clear-cut favorites in terms of their defense. Though their stats aren't really that different. They're actually kind of close, but you have to keep in mind that they've been trending up. They were absolutely awful going against the Roughnecks week 1. That doesn't help. And they've been like trending up since then. So I think if you were just looking at this week, they'd be one of the best defenses for sure after having such a good game against the defenders. They're also coming off, I'm sure they're high as fuck on like being hella good last week, and they probably are really believing in themselves. They probably had doubts. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. They're high on their success.
All right.
Because they're probably feeling super good about themselves at this point. There was definitely questions probably going into it, like how good are we? So because they were defeated, they had not won a game up to that point. You start questioning at that point, how good is your team? Can we really win this thing? I think they've completely 180'd into being considered one of the top teams in the league after one game.
Yeah.
Because they just looked so good.
Yeah.
I would say they have probably some of the best pass rushers in the league. just based on their pressures. And, a guy like Sean Oakman and another one that's escaping me, but he's leading the league in terms of pressures too. Mm-hmm. And they're going up against that O-line, like you mentioned. They should have a field day, especially with the situation at quarterback.
Yes.
I'm not looking forward to seeing that offense struggle, no matter who's in at quarterback. And it mainly goes down to their offensive line for me. For the Wildcats, their defense, it's probably the weakest link is their run defense. Though it's not a weak link necessarily, it's probably the weakest link on their team.
Yes.
So I guess the Guardians could try to lean on the run, but it hasn't been great this season.
Yeah.
In the first place.
Yeah.
So what's the chances of that really working out for them? I just don't see this going in their favor. And then we thought the Guardians defense was going to be so good, and they've been disappointing. They have a couple key players, but they can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. There's nothing redeeming on that defense for me. They have a couple good guys, but it's just things aren't working out for them.
Yep.
I hope some of those guys get traded. Ben Heaney come to the Dragons. He'd be cool in the Dragons.
You'd be cool.
All right, well, the injuries, you already hit it with the 3 guys being out.
Yes.
That's a huge deal. Especially if it ends up being 4. If they're starting tight end, they're 2 starting wide receivers, and now they're star running back, all 4 of those guys are out.
Yeah, that'll be a little rough.
It's like who is Nelson? I mean, who is Josh Johnson throwing to at that point?
Jordan Smallwood.
Yeah, but then who else after that? You're only going to throw to Jordan Smallwood, who's been inconsistent all year.
Fuck, Larry Rose is hurt too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what they're gonna do because that's why this could be like a sneaky one.
Yeah,
sneaky one. Maybe the Guardians put in Luis Perez and he's like an absolute game changer.
We'll see.
And then the Wildcats can't get anything going on offense because they have no one. Maybe Josh Johnson's still dishing, but they can't hit anyone. They're dropping it. They'd have to lean on Elijah Hood, who hasn't been fantastic, but that'd probably be their best option.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how those injuries, but you got to keep an eye on them because that could actually be a huge, with literally all your star guys missing on offense, that could be huge.
Yeah.
So we got to keep an eye on that. And then for the Guardians, just the bang up O-line is just, that's really,
it's rough.
It really sucks for them.
Yes.
Okay, so my prediction. All right. I'm going 12 for the Guardians. Mm-hmm. All right. And then I'm going 27 for the Wildcats. Wildcats take this one. The Wildcats cover, obviously. And I'm going the under by 1 point. Yes. Threading the needle. I was I almost pushed, but I was
almost pushed. You were like, nah, fuck that shit.
I didn't want to push. That would have been dumb.
That would have been, of course.
Well, unlike someone else.
Well,
all right. Anything else we want to say on this game before we move on to the next one?
I hope that when they're in the huddle and the running back asks Josh Johnson, hey, make sure I'm lined up correctly. I'm going to tell you 3 times. And then he's lined up incorrectly. He's not like, well, you should know. Because we're a team, Justin. We're a team. You fucker.
I didn't know you were going there until the end. All right. Let's move on to the second game of Saturday. This is the Dragons, the Seattle Dragons, at your team, the St. Louis Battlehawks. This one's going to be on Fox. All right. The spread, the Battlehawks are heavily favored here.
Yes.
Which I think this is kind of crazy. But they're favored by 12 points in this one. The over-under is at 38.5.
All right.
I don't really agree with these odds. I'll start this one off. So QB matchup, right? We have a top 4 quarterback in Jordan Ta'amu going up against a bottom 4 in Silvers. Though Silvers is probably at the high end of that bottom 4. He's be
probably
5.
Number 4.
Put him at 4 over Landry Jones and Cardale?
Maybe not over Cardale.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I'd put him over Landry Jones either.
I think
so he might be 5 or 6.
But I could understand either way. But continue.
Yeah. So Silvers obviously flashes of great play, and then overshadowed by flashes of absolutely the worst play you've ever seen. And so he's the Jameis Winston of the XFL. Yes. That could sometimes win you games. Yes. So you got to keep that in mind. But especially when I think their defense is better too. Still not a top unit, but better for sure. Ta'amu, on the other hand, super efficient all season. Not a lot has to be said. He's probably the 3rd best quarterback in the league right now.
Yep.
He's seen a lot of production. I think he's 2nd in terms of passing yards.
Which is weird because it never seems like he has a big passing game. But yeah.
But he's been consistent. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's been super consistent. He hasn't had a bad game yet. And,
Yeah.
you know, who would be ahead of them would be Josh Johnson and Landry Jones, but they missed a week.
Okay.
You know? So that's the only reason he's probably getting second, is because he has a week up on them.
All right.
And he's behind probably the best, if not he's one of the best, if not the best offensive lines in the league.
Yep.
So that's part of the reason he's been able to be so efficient, is he hasn't been hurried all that much, and he has some mobility that helps.
Yep.
Okay, so obviously QB matchups go into Tamu in that one. For the defenses, all right. So even though the Dragons aren't like the best defense in the league, I think they're a solid unit. I think the thing that jumps out is how many turnovers they get. They get a lot of turnovers. They're second in the league in turnover differential. They're +3. And you can contribute a lot of this to their pass rush and how much pressure they get on the QB. You saw that a lot against Landry Jones because he's not very mobile. But now they're going up against, as I said, one of the best offensive lines in the league. They've allowed pressures on just 16% of their dropbacks this season. That's the best in the XFL.
That's pretty good.
I'd be concerned because lots of their great defensive play comes from turnovers, and lots of those turnovers come from bad decisions by the quarterback when he has a defender in his face.
Fair point.
And I'm concerned on what's going to happen there going up against such a good offensive line. That could be a problem, but
Yes.
it's a good test.
Yes.
For the Battlehawks, we know they're like good. They're not like the best unit also, but I think they're also just well-rounded in general. I think they're tied for second in almost every defensive category. So passing yards allowed, rushing yards allowed, points allowed, behind the defenders. So the biggest matchup to watch here really is just how they're going to do against the run offense for the Dragons. They're currently averaging 104 rushing yards per game, the Dragons are. The Battlehawks have only allowed 82 rushing yards per game. So something's going to have to move there. Right?
Yes.
Something's going to get above their average or under their average. So, all right, let's move on to injuries and X factors. All right, the only injury I'm keeping an eye on this one, despite Seattle always being super banged up, they're not that banged up this week. They have the injuries that they have had. Isaiah Battle might be back. That's nice. Keeson Williams is trending upwards too, from what I'm hearing, so that's good. But the one you got to keep an eye on is Matt Jones, obviously. Last week he was limited. Now, of course, he played and he had a big week, and that was great for him. But now he is not participating thus far this week. So if he doesn't play, it shouldn't be that big of a problem because Keith Ford's back, right?
Yep.
And Kristen Michael had a better game last week, and so hopefully you can lean on those two guys if Matt Jones out. It shouldn't be that big of a problem. I don't think injuries will play a huge part in this game. All right, for this one, I'm going to go 28. No, I can't go 28. I didn't write my one down for this one. I forgot to do that before the show. I'm slacking. I'm going to go, for the Battlehawks, I'm going to go 21-14.
All right.
And so that's not covering so the Battlehawks win, but they don't cover. And this is the under.
Okay.
By 3.5 points.
So, you basically covered everything that I was going to say about injuries and possible X factors. Mm-hmm. I think the Battlehawks defense will get in Brandon Silver's face and make him make mistakes early, and I think they'll stay down. I do think Silvers will come together and string some scoring drives, as he does, but I still think he'll have an up and down day. Final score, Dragons 28. Final score, Battlehawks 28, Dragons 14. That is the over, and the Battlehawks a cover.
You taking the over on this one?
I am taking the over.
Wow. Thomas being a little risky. He never takes overs.
I never do, and I'll probably get burnt, but that's okay.
Yeah. I considered taking the over on this one too, but... Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else we want to mention here? The only thing I want to say about your comment where you said they'll get into Silver's face and he'll make mistakes as he normally does. The Battlehawks are not one of the best teams in terms of creating turnovers. Mm-hmm. They're about middle of the pack. Yeah. Now they could have a good day against Silvers, who is prone to throw an interception or two. Yeah. But I keep an eye out for that.
I think the pass rush will get there. If Isaiah Battle plays, it's different. But I think Andrew Ankra, I think Terrence Garvin, I think they'll get there when they need to get there. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to our third game. This is our first Sunday game. This one's going to be on FS1. Something I want to note before we even just start talking about games. So these Sunday games, it's on FS1 and then it's on ESPN2 is the second game on Sunday. These games aren't going to pull in a bunch of ratings.
No.
And it's kind of sad. Now, what the Roughnecks do have going for them is that this is a good matchup, and they'll probably have high attendance because both of these are Texas teams.
The Brown for Texas.
At Renegades. The Roughnecks are favored here by 1 point. Isn't that crazy? The best team in the league is favored by 1 point. Over-under is 50.5. I think this is the highest over-under of the week. So they think it'll be an offensive shootout. But do you want to start off on this one?
Sure.
All right.
All right. So we got Roughnecks and Renegades, blah, blah, blah. I'm actually really excited for this game.
This is probably game of the week.
Yeah, I don't know if it was off the podcast or if it was on the podcast last show, but it was like, man, I really want to see Roughnecks versus Renegades. And
it was on the podcast.
I'm like, you're in luck, sir. And I'm like, ha, ha, ha. So I really do truly think that the Renegades do have a quality team. I think they're being held back by QB play and just overall weird offense stuff. Their defense is quite good though, and I'm excited to see how the Roughnecks perform against the Renegades defense. I'm definitely gonna fuck up and confuse the names of the two.
I know, right?
But I'm gonna do my best to not. So in Houston, it's been the James Butler show. He's kind of uprooted Andre Williams as the lead back, which deservedly so. He's played fantastic. We'll see how much the Roughnecks... I'm sorry. Damn it. I just did it. The Renegades defense can hold him if they can. They are going to be missing Halui Kikaha because he has retired. So that is your boy, Justin. So I'll let you talk about him once it's your turn to speak. Basically, for the Renegades to have a shot at keeping this a good game, Landry has to play better than he's played. He's played okay when he's needed to, and he has come up in certain moments, but he needs to play better. He cannot make the same mistakes he's been making this season. He can't do it because the Roughnecks offense is too good to keep giving them the ball. So I'm predicting the over on this one, actually, and I'm going to say the final score is Roughnecks 33, Renegades 24.
Okay. I see you. All right. I'm not going to have this as high scoring. I'm actually taking the under on this one, but I spoiled that a little bit. I'll get to that at the end. All right, let's talk QB matchup. All right. So we have the clear number one best quarterback in the league in Phillip Walker, and we say this every week. There's no point of really talking about him. The only thing I'll say about him is that this should be a good test for him.
Yes.
This is a good defense, and so I'm excited to see how he plays against this good of a defense. But I still doubt it'll slow him down. He'll still probably light up the stat sheets. He's given me no reason to doubt that he can do that every week. So, but for Landry Jones, it's a different story. So Landry Jones is inconsistent at this point. He has flashes. He's one of the, if he played every game, if he had played 3 games, he'd probably be the number one quarterback in terms of passing yards because he puts up big numbers in the air. Yes. That's really part of that is the problem in this one, right? So we've seen so far that the Renegades have been plagued by slow starts, and their formula has been let's just throw these short passes and keep it close, and then the fourth quarter we're just going to hand it to Cameron Artis-Payne, and he's going to get 100 yards in 1 quarter, and we're going to win the game. That's not going to work against a team that can score 40 points a game, no problem.
Yes.
So they have to change up their formula for this one. You can't be doing what you've been doing. You need to establish the run early. You need to do it you need to not have 3 carries going into the second half. Split up your carries evenly throughout the game. Let Cameron Artis-Payne get a 200-yard day.
Plus, they have Lance Dunbar too is a quality backup. So
yeah, and they use him as a receiving threat a lot. And he's a good change of pace guy. But I'm just saying, Cameron Artis-Payne literally puts up 100 yards in 1 quarter.
Yeah,
this dude does not get any rush in the first half and has 100-yard days out of nowhere. All right, so we need to keep that in mind. They need to establish him early on, and that's the only way they can win this game. They need to be aggressive. And I know running isn't the most aggressive thing, but when it works like it does for them, that's what you got to do. You got to run the ball more than 3 times in the first half.
Yes.
Okay, and that'll also help Landry Jones, who's not the most mobile guy, right?
Yep.
So you're trying to, instead of if they know you're not going to run the ball in the first half, right?
Yeah.
Because you haven't been doing it, they're going to be bringing pressure the whole time because they're not worrying about gap integrity and stuffing running lanes because they're just getting after the quarterback. And they're a top front seven.
Yeah.
And they can get after a quarterback who can't really move because his leg is still apparently bum.
Yes.
That's been his biggest problem, is mobility. All right, so I've already kind of talked about the defenses, but I'll get into it a little bit more. Obviously, clearly, who won the QB matchup is Philip Walker here. Though I do think, I still believe in Landry Jones, and hopefully as he recovers more from the injury, he will improve his play. Okay, for the defense, for the Roughnecks, their biggest weakness is their secondary. Now, they're helped a lot. It doesn't look as obvious when you watch the game because their front seven is so damn good. Their linebackers are great in coverage, and they bring enough pressure that it really isn't a problem. But they are still the league worst in terms of passing yards. They give up the most passing yards at 232 per game. They are the league's worst. But now they're going against Landry Jones. It shouldn't be a problem in this one because Landry, as I said, mobility issues. The pass rush should be able to get there. Shouldn't be a problem. All right. So for the Renegades, they aren't like a top unit. So they're much like the Battlehawks, where they're just a solid unit. They're probably a little bit worse than the Battlehawks. They sit in the middle at pretty much every, 4 and 5 at every defensive statistical category that you can, yards per game, that kind of stuff. And we haven't had anything really to say about their defense in terms of problems. They just seem super solid. I think if any game's going to expose the problems that there is on the defense, because there has to be some, even though statistically they should be, not statistically, on paper, they should be one of the best defenses because they have so much talent on that defense, even though it's a big loss. And I'll talk about that here in a second. So if any issues are going to be exposed, they'll be exposed in this game, and we'll be probably talking a little bit differently about their defense after this game.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about injuries and X factors in this one. Really, nothing big here in terms of injury report. Nothing standing out. The biggest one is probably Donald Parham. If he doesn't go or if he's not 100%, that's a problem for the Renegades because he is their clear number one guy. But I think he was banged up last week. He went, so he should be fine. He had a huge day. But the big one that sticks out, and this isn't on the injury report, is the loss of my son, Halui Kikaha.
Is it
Right.
is it big though?
No. Well, it's big. It's big in my heart. It hurts.
Fair enough.
It hurts.
It hurts. Yes.
This guy had all the talent and the potential in the world to be a star. And what I fear happened, and obviously this isn't confirmed, what I fear happened, he retired. It probably is a lot like Andrew Luck in the way that he was just, because that's what took him out of the NFL was injury. And he was good in the NFL, then he got injured and just never recovered, so then he was trying to make his name here. He was my defensive MVP pick because he was good in the NFL. He showed a lot of talent. I thought he would excel at this level, but it seems like the injuries were still a problem. Obviously, he wasn't putting up production in the games that he did play. He probably had his best week last week, and he probably hurt like shit afterwards. And so, I'm glad that he's, made the decision and he's ready to move on in his life, and he's ready to do something else, and hopefully he can find happiness in that. But it sucks because I'd really like to see him dominate this league. But the injuries, it's just a problem. It's a physical game.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say. So my score I'm going here is 26-22. Roughnecks win. This is a close one. They do cover, but it is the under.
All right.
All right, let's move on to our last game we're going to talk about before we get into this. Let's see what time we're at. Actually, we're at 48 minutes, Thomas. That's not bad.
It's a crisp show.
Yeah. We're probably going to hit an hour.
Yeah.
All right. Defenders at Vipers. It's going to be on ESPN2. This is the last game of the weekend. Another weird one here, Thomas. Defenders favored by 1 point over the Vipers.
Whoever makes these odds needs to do a better
But
job.
I think they hit them pretty well.
Do
usually.
they? Yeah, that's the thing. I really don't have any idea. So
So the over-under is at 43.5. So you started the last one, right? So this one's mine.
yes,
All right. So I think this game could go one of two ways. A QB matchup, of course. I think this game could go 1-2 ways for Cardale Jones, right? So obviously it was a bad game for him against the Wildcats.
Yes, it
4
was.
interceptions. He got benched at the end because he had lost all confidence. There was no point of risking it. You weren't going to win that game.
Yeah.
All right. So he should be able to return to form. You'd think. He was going up against a good team with the Wildcats, and it was just an off day. It was their first road test. They're on the road again, and they're going up what I think is a solid secondary. If you don't agree, But
I don't think they're bad. I just think they need to not make mistakes. They're good until they make a mistake, which means they're not good.
Well, okay. I disagree with that.
Their mistakes are just ridiculous, is all I'm saying.
I think if they can limit the mistakes, they could be one of the best secondaries in the league.
That's fair to say.
They are the third leading team in terms of passing yards. They've only given up 188 per game. So they are the third best team. So that shows good confidence for the secondary. But it could be a bad game for Cardale if it's really that when they go on the road, because we've seen this. Teams that go on the road have not done well.
No.
It's becoming a trend now.
Yes.
And it was something I pointed out in the very first week of the show when we were doing previews. That I was like, I'm curious how these road games are going to work because these guys haven't had road tests in a long time. Some of these guys haven't played in a while. They're not used to having to travel to a new city and go play a full game of football. Yeah. And it's been a trend. The home team pretty much always wins.
Yeah.
I think there's been a few exceptions, but even in stunners, like the Wildcats were at home, no one thought the Wildcats were going to win.
Yeah.
And they blew them out. Home teams have just been good. So I'm worried about Cardale, but I hope he can bounce back because he is my MVP pick. So I hope it don't look dumb. Yes. All right. For the Vipers, obviously, even with those questions about Cardale, clearly Cardale wins this QB matchup.
Absolutely.
Because the QB situation in Tampa Bay is just absolutely a shit show. Especially now they got rid of Quinn Flowers, who was realistically the only thing working in their QB room.
Yes.
So Aaron Murray is healthy again. He was a full participant. I can't even speak. Take a deep breath, Justin.
So disgusted.
Aaron Murray was a full participant in practice, but it's expected that he will back up Taylor Cornelius. But it doesn't matter. No matter who starts for that team, their offense is going to have a good day. It's just the fact of the matter. All right.
Yes.
For their defense, the Vipers, as I said, have been pretty damn good. And it's probably the best part of their team at this point. They're ranked third in pretty much every category, not just passing yards. But they do have the league's worst in points per game. Now, yes. I want to attribute this not so much to the defense and more to the offense that can't move the ball down the field and turns the ball over a lot. A lot. Right? So you have to take that into account. The fact that they're still third in pretty much every category in terms of yards. They're probably getting great field position every drive.
Yep.
But, they're going to be tested here because they're going against what was a really good offense, and I think they still are despite having a bad week. But what bodes well for this team, I think, in the long term and in this game, is that they're not like super clearly a team that can get after the quarterback. Like when I talk about the Dragons, right? And I was saying, their secondary gets a lot of turnovers because the pressure gets there.
Yeah.
This is a team that doesn't really get to the quarterback that much. Mm-hmm. And their coverage has been generally pretty good.
Yes.
Except for a few mistakes here and there.
A few.
That probably bodes well. You'd think, okay, so that sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But it bodes well for a team because Cardale doesn't get sacked a lot. Cardale doesn't take a lot of pressure. So if you're able to be good in coverage and don't need a guy throwing a mistake off pressure to get an interception, if you're just good in coverage, that'll probably help you in a game like this.
Yes.
So I believe they're one of the best secondaries in the league. This game will be a chance to see. I really think it will. And I'm hoping next week Thomas will finally concede that they are one of the best secondaries in the league.
I think if they stop making epic LOL mistakes, then yeah, sure. But they need to not make epic LOL mistakes is all.
All right. Let's get to the Defenders' defense. All right. So they had an awful everything about the Defenders was awful last week, including their defense. Yet they are still the league's best in every category for their defense because they had phenomenal, easy games those first 2 weeks.
They ain't play nobody, Paul.
Yeah. They should continue and get back right up to number one because they're not playing anybody again. They're playing the Vipers' terrible offense.
Yes.
If anything's going to work for the Vipers here, it's going to be the run game, and I don't think that's enough to win this game. Injuries and X factors. All right. So for the Defenders, Elijah Campbell is out. He is the team's best coverage corner, but he did not participate in practice this week, so that sucks. But for the Defenders, they're lucky because if you're gonna miss one of your star coverage guys, this is the game to miss him.
Yeah.
So they should be okay. Nothing really on the Vipers that sticks out except Nick Truesdale. Obviously, they looked awful without him, but they look awful every week. So, but I think you want him back over DeAndre Goolsby. We know we talked about last week.
Yes.
Or on the last show that wasn't working.
Yes.
And one more for the defenders that I want to point out is that Jarrell Presley is banged up again. He's limited. He hasn't been super involved in the offense, not the way we thought he would be, but he still is. I think he splits carries with Pumphrey at this point, and they kind of got a running back by committee. I don't know if Pumphrey can carry the load fully, so hopefully he plays. That's all I have to say. My final score for this one, I'm going 28-6, and I'm gonna go the defenders. They cover this. They cover this 1 point favorite quite well.
Yes.
So 28-6. That's gonna be the under as well.
Okay. Just one more injury I'd like to touch on for the Vipers is Martez Ivey. So the tackles have really been I don't want to say the lone bright spot of the Vipers offense, but they've been okay.
Right.
It's really most of their problems have come from the interior line. So Martez Ivey being at least not a participant at practice is going to hurt. Nick Truesdale, as you said, not being a participant is going to suck. And Quinn Flowers and all that shit sucks. But otherwise, you covered basically everything I want to say. If the Vipers can limit mistakes and get Cardale to not feel comfortable in the pocket, I think they have a shot. Offensively, Cornelius. Ooh, sorry, my dog just sneezed. Oh, he's about to sneeze again. oh, never mind, he swallowed it.
He swallowed his sneeze?
Well, he that's what I call when you are about to sneeze, but it goes away. So
it sounds like some Ohio shit.
I haven't lived in Ohio for over 14 years, I don't think. But anyway, I think Cornelius. I think they'll still try to run some option plays with Cornelius, and Cornelius can move, but of course he's not Quinn Flowers. I think he'll be more successful than he has been, but I still don't think it will be enough. I'm taking the under, and I'm taking the Defenders 21 over the Vipers 10.
Okay, 21-10. You're taking the under here?
Yes.
And you have them covering. All right, I want to do, before we end the show, I want to do some reckless speculation about Quinn Flowers here.
Okay.
This is kind of jokey.
Okay.
Right? But so you just talked about, and this is what you just said made me think of this. You talked about Taylor Cornelius running some option stuff.
Yeah.
So what if they got to practice and they're like, you know what's really working for us right now? The option stuff. Taylor Cornelius, come do option stuff. And Quinn Flowers is sitting there like, what?
I don't think Quinn Flowers would be going to fucking practice at this point. So.
Well, he had to at some point. I feel like it's reckless speculation.
Oh,
he went to practice and they were like, "Hey, let's run option stuff."
Yes, before all this stuff
Taylor
happened.
Cornelius, come on in.
Well, because they were
like,
doing a little bit of that.
Wait.
They were doing a little bit of that last week when Cornelius was given the reins. So he's probably like, "Coach, mind if I?" And he's like, "Quinn, come on."
Taylor Cornelius,
the corn man.
He's got corn in his name.
He's got corn. It's a grain. It's not a vegetable.
He's 6'6",
it's a grain.
dude. You're like what? 5'8".
Yeah, pipsqueak. I'm Mark
This
Trestman.
dude's 6'6".
This dude's 6'6". This dude hangs with the hottest dudes.
He obviously can run better than you because he's taller.
Obviously, he's got longer legs. It's science.
Okay, so that's all our predictions for this week. I think it was a good show. What did we end up going?
About an hour.
58, about an hour. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
As always,
Damn good.
thank you guys for listening.
Yes, thank you very much.
We appreciate the support that we have gotten so far. We
Yes.
appreciate all the love on Twitter. We appreciate talking to you guys. Make sure you head over to our Twitter and follow us there at XFL Extra Point.
Remember,
thank you guys so much.
Yes. Remember, during the games, if you want to converse with us and point out observations, send them our way, and we'll respond to you. And if you have a stupid clownery idea and a dumb opinion, we will tell you if it's dumb or not.
Thomas will do that.
I will do that. Send them our way. We'll see what's going on.
Yeah, Thomas is going to be pretty much full reins on Saturday.
Yes. I will also be at work Saturday and Sunday a little bit, but I will be active as I can, and I will be watching the games. So.
Yeah, I have something that will make me not be able to watch the games till the nighttime. So.
Till the nighttime.
But I will watch them. It's not
Yes.
like I won't watch them. I'll just watch them that night.
Yes.
So I'll record them. But all right, thank you guys so much. It was a good one. 20 episodes.
We did
How
it,
about
bro.
that?
We
How about
fucking
that?
did it, mate.
XFL 2020.
That's right.
All right, thanks guys. See you next week.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
This is